Happy Odin's Day, and that means New Rune Day. There's a couple of things I want to cover in this video. Firstly, that I'm selecting 2 runes to work with this week. 2 runes that I don't necessarily think of as often as I do some of the other runes. So, having had sort of Sawalo cross my path and be very much in my face for me there to work with, this week I feel inclined to go in pursuit of a couple of the runes that I feel less naturally drawn to, just because this is a working relationship and it's important to put in effort. And no, for a few weeks in particular, one of the runes I work with, Awaz, is one that it's been catching my eye and has been on my mind. So this week I'm working with Iowaz and Awaz. Nice and confusing, I know. However, they're both runes that have been on my mind a little bit, in that they don't sort of cross my mind that much. I mean, it's one of those things that, bizarrely, there's other runes that people probably are more naturally drawn to or have a better popularity, like Tiwaz or Ophala or Algies. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not sort of criticising any sort of popularity contest amongst the runes. It's just some are quieter than others, and part of my disposition sometimes is to want to connect to the quiet parts. There is something almost that the quiet ones are the ones that are always watching, listening, learning, growing, and don't have to sort of be all show and tell. So that's the first part of this video, just letting you know the runes I'm going to be working with. The second part of this video I've been thinking about for a little while, and I just wanted to go over a walk through, to a certain extent, my meditation technique. And this is what works for me, and it isn't necessarily something that'll work for you, or it doesn't even have to be something that you take on board. It's more some of the practices that make sense, and some of the things I do to make it happen. And I have to say, sometimes it's easy, like flicking a light switch, and other times it requires a bit of effort. It requires quite a bit of work. And I've been meditating for a long time, and it's just, I guess really it comes down to what sort of state of mind you're in before you prepare to meditate. And like all things, is you can have good days and you can have bad days. I would say as well, probably earlier this year I had probably one of my most powerful meditations, when I sort of, so probably my most powerful meditation. I sat on the edge of my bed, as I normally do, to meditate, to connect to new runes, and it was a period of time that when I was closing my eyes to begin sort of the breathing process, and that Odin was waiting for me. And this particular time he was sort of right in my face. And as meditations go, it was really powerful. So just gonna talk through a couple of the things I do. Let's say, to begin with, it's all about closing your eyes, calming down, breathing in and out. And then how I begin is I open myself, my energy, if you like. Some people might call it chakras. Different cultures have different names, and as I'm trying to do with the path of power, is not stick one label on it. It's more a case of identifying that there are things we can do that allow us to be open or closed, and the trick is to open up, to close yourself down, or to manage sort of a spiritual defense. So what I'll do is I'll open myself up, open my aura, and I project energy to sort of encompass my home. By the terms of my home, it's something I have boundaries set with runes now, as I've developed, and I connect to those boundaries and then go into the second stage of a meditation, where it's sort of an internal journey, or almost of sorts. It's a projection where I descend, connect to the well. That's the only way I can really describe it for now. And it's where the runes are, and I float in what I can only say is like a womb-like place. This vast, calm darkness. And I'll also say that the runes can seem to be of different sizes, or perhaps my projection as I'm connecting to the runes is I'm either feeling very small, or perhaps I'm feeling very large. And while there is a darkness, there is the green glow of the runes. And it's, let's say, once I've identified what the runes are I would like to work with, or I'm seeking to work with, then it's a case of making that connection, or sometimes following your instinct. And then really it's a matter of drawing back into yourself, returning once the contact has been made, to return, to sort of draw back in my energy, to close myself down, and with also sort of bringing or holding those runes I've chosen to work with within that energy, within my defense. There is a connection to them for the following week, until obviously I repeat this process, disconnect, reconnect, or reconnect to runes. Ultimately, that's what works for me. It may not work for you. You may see something different. There's aspects to this I am still working out myself. I would never be the sort of person to say I have all the answers for you, or I have all the answers. There's very much a lot of mystery, a lot of lost lore and a lot of lore that perhaps isn't meant for us. I've discussed it a couple of times in videos where it's mentioned that there are other runes that are not meant for humanity, for mankind, the human race. Or maybe we can only conceive of a certain amount of runes. Bind runes are an extension to that, depending on your belief concerning them. And can we discover other runes? Well, I think we probably could. However, I also think no one would accept it. Just really because of the general conflict within the society when it comes to even what should be simple things like sort of personal journeys, talking about personal journeys, to how that might conflict or not align to sources, and what people say about the sources, what people who educate themselves about the sources versus scholars of the sources. There's just a lot of unnecessary conflict. And I recently commented on someone's post that while there's been a lot of lore lost, someone could be accidentally following the same law without knowledge of the law, and they would not be considered trustworthy or relevant, or even being someone you could support, because for some people it wouldn't be in the sources. Obviously we grasp on information, limited information in the sources, so something like respecting, revering your ancestors, there's a natural inclination to be driven by the sources. But the sources don't necessarily mean they can be relevant to the passage of time, to our modern world, when, I don't know, what our sources tell us are experiences or observations of a time in the past. And if things like, I don't know, we talk about Asgard, I can make a light-hearted joke about it, that are we saying there's been no evolution or sort of replanning or new structures built in Asgard, and that sort of, there's still gonna be effectively wooden huts? It's not to dismiss the romantic notion of Asgard and a simpler way of living, a purer way of living perhaps, but you can't tell me that there wouldn't be evolution of, I don't know, styles of buildings or new things created. And of course the sources aren't going to mention these. They can't mention these because they're stuck in the past. And obviously there was a massive period of time where people will say, well, it's a dead religion, no one practiced it, and it's coming back and we've got to rediscover it or reforge the paths. Or maybe reforging those paths is we'll walk along similar lines, sometimes the same lines, and maybe sometimes take different lines. feels a little bit ranty, and I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to stop there. Wish you a nice day, and look forward to seeing you in my next video, which will probably be tomorrow, but I'll be focusing on Project Yield. So thank you for listening. Do take care. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.